My spouse's family spent months systematically turning my children against me, and I've only just realized how deliberate and orchestrated their efforts were. Here's the situation. I'm employed in project management, and I'm currently the sole breadwinner because my husband, Derek, severely injured his leg in a fall on icy pavement outside our home in January. He's been unable to work for 4 months and has been dabbling in questionable online ventures to earn money from home. Things like cryptocurrency investments, e-commerce schemes, and affiliate marketing nonsense that never pans out. He spends hours glued to YouTube, watching self-proclaimed experts who barely look old enough to drive, promising anyone can become a millionaire from their couch. I've repeatedly urged him to prioritize his physical recovery so he can return to his actual job, but he's convinced he's on the verge of striking it rich online by following the advice of these so-called gurus. Meanwhile, I'm the one working tirelessly to keep our household running. I'm ensuring we can cover the mortgage, buy groceries, pay for Lily's ballet lessons and Noah's preschool, and set aside funds for their future education. I'm the one planning for their long-term stability while Derek fiddles with his laptop, dreaming of becoming the next internet tycoon. His parents, particularly his mother, Margaret, have never approved of me. From the moment we married, they've believed I wasn't worthy of their son and have been looking for ways to drive a wedge between us. When Derek got injured and I had to take on extra work to compensate for his lost income, they saw their chance. Last month, I had to go on a 5-day business trip across 3 cities to secure a crucial commission, as I'm the only one bringing in a steady paycheck. Margaret offered to watch the kids while I was away, and I thought, naively, that she might finally be stepping up to support us instead of constantly judging my every move. I couldn't have been more mistaken. When I returned home on Friday evening, my 7-year-old daughter, Lily, recoiled when I tried to embrace her. She looked at me and said, "Grandma Margaret told me you're not my real mom anymore because real moms don't leave their kids for money. We're supposed to call you Sarah now because that's what we call women who pick their jobs over their own children." I was stunned, wondering what my mother-in-law had done to my daughter. My own child was addressing me by my first name, claiming I wasn't her mother because I went to work to provide for our family. Then Noah, my 4-year-old, had a complete breakdown when I tried to pick him up, sobbing and screaming, "Don't leave us again, Sarah. Don't go make money for other people. Grandma said you might decide you love your job more than us and never come back." This was a boy who used to sprint to me when I returned from a quick errand. Now he was terrified I'd abandon him because I have a job that supports our family's needs. Margaret stood there, smirking with satisfaction as she watched the chaos she'd created. She told Lily, "Sweetheart, show Sarah what we practiced about women who value their careers over their kids." Lily, like she'd been coached, recited, "Real mothers find joy in their children. They don't need to travel to feel important." I was fighting to keep my composure in front of the kids, but inside, I was furious. This woman had spent 5 days brainwashing my children into believing their mother didn't love them because I worked to support them. Margaret looked at me and said, "The kids have been asking all week why you care so much about money when you should be happy just being their mom." I had to explain that some women aren't content with motherhood. Then she dropped a bombshell. Leaning closer, she said, "Sarah, all these trips, staying in hotels in different cities, I can't help but wonder what you're really up to. Just last month, our neighbor found out his fiancée was unfaithful while he was working hard to build their future. Women who travel constantly, it makes people suspicious." She continued in a sanctimonious tone, "A woman's place is creating a nurturing home for her family, not gallivanting across the country under the guise of work. A wife belongs with her husband and children, not in hotel rooms with who knows who." I started laughing, hysterical, uncontrollable laughter, because the absurdity was overwhelming. I looked at her and said, "Margaret, are you seriously accusing me of cheating? While I'm working myself to the bone to pay our bills because your son has earned a grand total of $20 from his online schemes in 4 months. She got defensive, but I pressed on. "How do you suggest we pay the mortgage, Margaret? How do we afford Lily's ballet classes or groceries, with Derek's $20 crypto profits? Should I quit my job so we can all move in with you when we lose the house?" Margaret's face flushed, and she snapped, "A good wife finds ways to support her husband without running off to other cities. There are plenty of jobs that don't require overnight travel. You choose these trips, which makes people question what's really going on." I was still laughing at the sheer audacity. This woman believed I should abandon the career that's keeping our family afloat, because she's decided my business trips are a cover for infidelity, while her son sits at home, chasing get-rich-quick dreams. Derek hobbled in on his crutches and, instead of being appalled by his mother's actions, nodded along like it all made sense. He said, "Maybe you should listen to what the kids are saying, Sarah. They need stability, and your constant absence is confusing them. They keep asking why mommy cares more about work than being with her family." Then his sister, Emma, showed up. Apparently, this was a planned family intervention I wasn't invited to. She started lecturing me about how children need their mothers present, not just providing financially. She claimed Lily and Noah had been crying to Margaret about how they never know when I'll leave again, and how they're scared I'll choose my career over them permanently. Derek agreed with this nonsense, saying, "Maybe it's time to admit Mom is better at caring for them than you are. She's there for breakfast, dinner, and bedtime stories every day. Maybe we should let her have more influence over how they're raised since she's actually present." I was staring at my husband, who was suggesting his mother should raise our children, because I'm the one ensuring they have food, shelter, and opportunities, while he's unemployed and playing internet mogul. Emma piled on, saying Margaret had been explaining to the kids that mothers who truly love their children don't need to travel for work. They find ways to earn money from home, so they're always there. She said Lily asked Margaret why her mommy needs a job when daddy is supposed to provide for the family. And Margaret had to explain that some families are backward, with the mother working because the father can't. The worst part was learning this had been going on for months. Every time I worked late or traveled for business, Margaret was there, poisoning my children against me, while I was working overtime to cover Derek's lost income. She was serving dinner and telling Lily and Noah that real mothers don't need careers to feel fulfilled. They find all their joy in their children. When I took a weekend project to pay for Lily's summer camp, Margaret told the mothers who truly love their kids spend weekends with them, not chasing money. Derek admitted he'd been encouraging this because he thought I should be home caring for the family while he worked on his online ventures. He believed turning our kids against me would convince me to quit my job and stay home. He thought this was helping our family. I discovered Margaret had been using every opportunity to undermine me. When I missed Lily's school event due to a client crisis, Margaret told her, "See, honey, this is what happens when mommies care more about their bosses than their children's dreams." When Noah was sick and I worked from home while caring for him, Margaret told him, "Real mommies don't do work when their babies need them. They focus on making their babies feel better." She coached them on what to say about our family. Lily was supposed to tell people, "My real mommy is Grandma Margaret because she's here every day. Sarah just pays for things but is never around." Noah was taught to say, "I wish Sarah would stay home and play with us instead of always thinking about work." I went upstairs to unpack and process this nightmare, needing space to think about how these people were sabotaging my bond with my children. I tossed my suitcase onto the bed and started unpacking, keeping my hands busy while my mind raced. After unpacking, I grabbed a basket of clean laundry I'd left before my trip and began putting Derek's clothes away in his dresser. While folding his gym shirts into the bottom drawer, one got caught on something. I reached under and found a stack of papers. At first, I thought it was just a random email Derek had printed, maybe using it as a drawer liner. But when I looked closer, it was a conversation between Derek and some stranger about working mothers who neglect their families. Confused, I dug deeper and found more papers hidden under his clothes. Photos of Lily and Noah looking distressed, notes in Margaret's handwriting about my work hours, printed conversations I'd never seen. It was like they'd been compiling a dossier to use against me. There was a list in Margaret's handwriting of all my business trips, late work nights, and client meetings, with comments like, "Shows consistent prioritization of career over children," and "lacks maternal instincts." The most chilling discovery was a series of exchanges between Derek and this unknown person about the harm caused by working mothers, with Derek portraying me as an absent parent who was never home. I photographed everything and put it back exactly as I found it. I went downstairs, acted normal, made dinner, helped with homework, bathed the kids, and read bedtime stories to children who barely looked at me because they'd been taught their working mother didn't deserve their affection. But I couldn't stop thinking about those papers and what they planned to do with this evidence about my parenting. Why collect such detailed records unless they had a specific purpose? After the kids were asleep, Derek started talking about how maybe I should reconsider whether my job was best for our family. He said Margaret had shown him how much the kids suffer when I travel, and it might be time to prioritize family over career goals. He acted like this was a loving intervention to help me see reason, not a calculated attack on my relationship with my children. First update, I'm back, and I'm trembling with anger. What I learned today has me packing our things and leaving immediately. This isn't just family conflict. These people have been threatening my children and plotting to ruin my life entirely. After finding those papers and confronting Derek, I slept in the guest room at his parents' house, exhausted and confused. This morning, Derek's father, Harold, stood in the doorway, saying we needed to discuss my role in the family seriously. He sat me down and calmly explained that they'd been observing me for months and concluded I wasn't the right woman to raise their grandchildren. He said they'd found a better match for Derek, a local woman who understands family values and would never prioritize a career over her children. I was floored, asking what he meant, and he coolly said Derek deserved a proper wife who would support him, especially now that he's injured and vulnerable. He admitted they'd been documenting my behavior to prove I'm an unfit mother, preparing for when they help Derek divorce me and gain custody. He said, "We've been planning this for some time, Sarah. We just needed Derek to see what kind of woman you truly are." I lost it, yelling that this was insane and how dare they plot to destroy my marriage and take my children. Harold remained calm, saying good mothers don't scream like this, and my outburst was exactly the kind of behavior they were documenting to show my instability. I demanded to know where Derek was, and Harold said he was out with his future wife, getting acquainted. They met at church, and she's everything a man could want. Homely, devoted to children, understanding her role in a family. I was losing my mind, realizing they'd been planning to replace me like I was a piece of furniture they didn't like. Harold warned that if I fought this, they had ample evidence of my neglect due to work, and the kids would be better off with a stable father and a caring stepmother. That's when I decided to talk to Lily and Noah immediately. I found them in Margaret's room and asked them to come with me for a private talk. I gently asked them to tell me what Grandma Margaret and Grandpa Harold had been saying while I was away. At first, they were hesitant, but then Lily started crying and the truth poured out. Lily said Margaret had threatened them, saying that if they didn't help convince me to quit my job and stay home, terrible things would happen to our family. Margaret told her that bad mothers who work too much lose their children forever, and if Lily wanted to stay with us, she had to help show me what real mothers do. The worst part, Margaret threatened that if they didn't comply, they'd have to live in the basement without regular meals, as that's what happens to kids whose mothers don't love them enough to stay home. She told them Derek would get a new wife who'd care for them better, but only if they helped prove I was a bad mother. Noah sobbed, saying he didn't want to call me Sarah, but Margaret said calling me Mommy meant he wanted me to keep leaving for work and never return. Both kids said they loved me and didn't want a new mom. They were just terrified because Margaret said she'd ensure they'd never see me again if they didn't help her. Lily said Margaret showed her photos on her phone of sad foster children, saying that's what happens when mothers choose work over family. Noah said Derek showed them pictures of this woman, saying she was excited to be their new mom, claiming she'd be better because she understood children need mothers who stay home. I started packing our things immediately. I wasn't spending another night in a house with people who threatened my children and planned to steal them. We're going back to our apartment, which I pay for every month, where no one can manipulate my kids. While I was packing, Margaret came in, acting innocent, asking what I was doing. I told her what the kids said about her threats, and she had the gall to say she was just helping them understand the consequences of having a selfish mother. She said if you were a better mother, they wouldn't fear being abandoned. I was just preparing them for what happens when mothers make bad choices. Then Derek returned with this woman, his supposed replacement wife. She's exactly what you'd expect. Sweet, submissive, talking about how much she loves kids and how wonderful it must be to stay home with them. She said to me, "I can't imagine choosing a job over these precious children. Family should always come first, don't you agree?" Derek introduced her as someone who understands what kids need and how vital it is for mothers to be present. I looked at her and said, "So you're the one they picked to replace me after they take my kids?" She replied, "Oh no, I'm just here to support Derek during this challenging time while he figures out what's best for his family." Derek jumped in, saying I was being dramatic and no one was stealing anything. They were just helping me see that the kids need stability. I grabbed my kids and our bags and said we were leaving. Derek tried to stop me, saying I couldn't take the kids without resolving things, But I told him there was nothing to resolve after his family threatened our children and planned to replace me. Margaret followed us to the car, yelling that I was proving their point about being unstable, and that I was ruining the kids' lives by taking them away from people who truly care. Harold calmly said my behavior was expected and would be documented as further proof of my instability. I drove back to our apartment with Lily and Noah, who were finally acting like themselves again, saying they loved me and were sorry for saying those hurtful things. Lily kept apologizing, saying she didn't want to hurt me but was scared of Margaret's threats. Noah asked if the mean lady would really be his new mom, and I assured him no one would ever replace me. Both kids seemed relieved to be away from that toxic environment, but I'm terrified because this goes beyond disapproving in-laws. These people have been plotting for months to destroy my life, take my children, and replace me with someone they chose. I need to protect my kids and prove their evidence is based on lies and coercion. Second update, we got back to our apartment, hoping for some peace. Wrong again. At 6 a.m., my phone started ringing incessantly. It was my parents, frantic because Derek's family called them, claiming I'd kidnapped Lily and Noah and vanished. My mom was in tears, asking where we were and if we were safe, saying Harold called at midnight, claiming I'd had a breakdown and taken the kids. He told them I might be dangerous and no one knew where we'd gone. I explained we were just at our apartment, but Derek's family had convinced them I'd disappeared with the children. While I was calming my parents, Derek and Harold showed up at 8 a.m., banging on my door, shouting that they'd been searching for us all night. Through the peephole, I saw them acting like worried family members. Derek yelled, "Sarah, we've been looking everywhere. Everyone's been worried sick." Harold added that my parents had been calling, desperate to know if we'd been found. I shouted back that they lied to my parents to make me look unstable and that they weren't coming in. Derek kept pounding, saying I needed to let them see the kids to call off the search. I told them to leave or I'd call the police. The banging continued for 20 minutes, with them demanding entry and me refusing. I called the police, reporting harassment at my home. When the officers arrived, Derek and Harold played the concerned family card, telling them I'd taken the kids without notice and they were worried about our safety. Derek said he just wanted to ensure his kids were okay and that I'd been acting erratically. I explained to the police that these people had been manipulating my children and I'd brought them back to our apartment where we live. I showed them my lease and clarified that we'd only been at Derek's parents temporarily during my trip, but after discovering their threats, I left with the kids. The police asked Derek and Harold why they thought I'd kidnapped the kids. Harold said I'd taken them after making wild accusations against the family. Derek added that he was concerned about my mental state. I told the officers about the threats and manipulation, and they said that without a custody order, I hadn't broken any laws by bringing my kids home. Derek argued that he had rights as a father, but the police explained that without a court order, I didn't have to let him in. They made Derek and Harold leave. I called my parents and explained everything. The lies, the threats, the replacement wife. They were shocked but believed me and apologized for falling for Derek's family's manipulation. On Monday, Lily's school called, saying Derek tried to pick her up early, claiming a family emergency with his father. I told them he's not authorized to take her and to call me if he shows up. Later, Noah's daycare reported that Margaret tried to pick him up, claiming I'd arranged a doctor's appointment. I drove to both places, provided photos of Derek, Margaret, Harold, and this woman, Veronica, and instructed staff to call the police if any of them appeared. The school principal offered to file a report about the unauthorized pickup attempt, which I agreed to. That afternoon, Derek texted, accusing me of blocking him from seeing the kids and hurting Lily by keeping her father away. I responded that he lied about an emergency to take her, and that I was protecting them from manipulation. His texts grew aggressive, claiming I was emotionally abusing the kids by keeping them from their father and grandparents, and he was documenting it. I saved every text, knowing he was trying to paint me as the unfit parent. On Tuesday, the building manager called, saying Harold had tried to get a key to my apartment at 5 a.m., claiming a family emergency. I told him there was no emergency and to bar them from the building. He suggested changing my lock since Derek might still have a key. While packing Derek's remaining things, I found his old phone in a drawer. It was dead, so I borrowed a charger from a neighbor. When it powered on, it buzzed with notifications from messaging apps Derek hadn't logged out of. I found months of texts between him and Harold, starting in February after his injury. Harold asked if the injury could be an opportunity to get me to quit traveling and focus on being a proper wife and mother. Derek agreed, saying if the kids got used to me being gone and saw how much better things were with Margaret's help, I'd see the error of my ways. In March, Derek complained that my work trips were confusing the kids' understanding of family roles. Harold suggested documenting how the kids thrived without me. By May, Derek was talking about meeting a woman who understood family values, and Harold encouraged him to compare her to me. The most recent text showed Harold suggesting that my reaction to their concerns would prove my unfitness for custody. I photographed everything. When Lily asked what I was doing, I asked if anyone had questioned her about my work. She said Margaret repeatedly asked if she missed me when I traveled, coaching her to say she was sad. Noah said Harold asked if he thought I loved my job more than him, confusing him about the right answer. Lily revealed Margaret showed her pictures of sad foster kids, saying that's what happens to children of working mothers. Noah said Margaret locked him in a closet for defending me, telling him to think about whether he wanted to help or hurt our family. I'm collecting all this evidence and meeting a lawyer tomorrow. These people have been waging a war against me, and I'm done playing defense. Final update, I'm back with what I hope is my last update, as I've taken control of this situation. Thanks to everyone who advised me to stop reacting and start acting. After finding those texts and learning how Margaret terrorized my kids, I packed us up and drove 4 hours to my parents' house. My dad distracted Lily and Noah with his model trains, and my mom made them feel safe. I told my parents everything: Derek's schemes, Margaret's threats, the replacement wife, and the texts planning this for months. They were horrified. I called the school and daycare, saying the kids would be absent due to a family emergency. We spent days letting them relax while I researched divorce lawyers. On Wednesday, I heard cars in my parents' driveway. It was Margaret and Harold, demanding I bring out the kids, claiming I was unstable and had taken them. My dad told them to leave, but Margaret screamed that she loved the kids more than I did, and Harold tried to push past him. I told them I knew about their threats and the texts, and the kids were happy playing, not asking for them. They denied everything, claiming the kids misunderstood normal discipline.